Hi, and welcome to episode 6 of season 3 of Talking Trash with Team Venom. I'm your host, Rory Bailey, joined as usual by Dave Burston and Andy Moore, and with a very, very special guest, one of my personal favourite ROH wrestlers, Shane Taylor. Shane, how's it going?
It's going good, man. It's going good. How are you guys doing?
Yeah, great, thank you.
Very good. You forgot to say he was one of the longest running ROH World TV champions as well. One of the longest running.
Listen, that's a much better input as to the intro, but you're leaving out the fact that I am the baddest champion that you've ever seen, boy. You know what I mean? So if you're having me on a show, talking trash is what I do, and you're not introducing me the right way as you should, we're already going to start off on a bad foot.
My apologies.
We do apologize. Right. Rory, you go first.
Yes. Firstly, we spoke to you about 4 or 5 years ago initially, back when you and Keith Lee were the Pretty Boy Killers at the time. And in that interview, we asked you what the future held for you, and you said you wanted your name to be synonymous with ROH, and that you wanted to capture the world, tag team, six-man tag, and TV titles. And in my opinion, at least, over that time period, we've seen you have a ridiculously good reign with the TV title, and you're one of the people that I automatically think of when I look at ROH. So do you feel like you've achieved that yourself as
well? I feel as though I've gotten to check a few things off of the list, but my work isn't done. It's nowhere near close to being done. I want to be able to, when anybody thinks of ROH, some of the first names that come to mind, you think Danielson, you think Joe, you think Briscoe, Jay Lethal. I want my name to be in that conversation when people say ROH 10 years from now. I don't want them to think of Danielson. I don't want them to think of Joe. And that's not to discredit anything that they've done, because they helped get us here. But when you talk about different sports and different platforms, nobody talks about Otto Graham. You know what I mean? As the sport moves forward, as things go, you need new names, new faces, new shoulders to carry those letters on. I want my name to be the one that helps carry not only the letters of ROH, but the letters of STP as well.
Brilliant, thank you. Speaking of early years that you did, we noticed you was trained by Raymond Rowe. How did you manage to come across him as a trainer?
I've known Ray since I was like 16. Our high schools actually wrestled each other amateur, so I've known him since then. And then just kind of following the scene, first learned about independence right after I got out of college, because for the longest time, a lot of people think like there's you have the top in WWE, and that's all they see, that's all they know. So as far as I knew, the only way to get into wrestling was that way. Then I figured out how things work, and you have schools and things of that sort. Ran into another guy by the name of Jerry Myers, J Rock, who was tagging with Ray at the time. Talked to them, and the rest is history.
So go back to those early days, those college days. Who were the guys that you watched growing up? Who were the guys that made you want to be the baddest champion we've ever seen?
I mean, growing up was always a big kid. You know what I mean? So watching guys like Ron Simmons was incredible for me, not only because of the work he put in, but he was a guy who was able to just be a performer, to just be an athlete, to just be a guy that busted his ass, climbed the ranks, and and accomplished all the goals that there were. There were no stereotype characters attached to them. He didn't have to be a gangster. He didn't have to be a thug. He didn't have to be a pimp. He didn't have to act like a wild man who didn't know how to speak. You know what I mean? Like, he was just able to be himself and be successful. And I think seeing that something so rare when it came to us growing up, and especially in the sport of professional wrestling, inspired me. And then, of course, you have guys like Vader, Taker, Stan Hansen. And for me, I know that I'm never going to be the guy with a six-pack, but I can knock the hell out of people. You know what I mean? So that was the approach that I took. Was all right. You got these big bad dudes just beating people's asses. I can do that. You know what I mean? So that's kind of what started it all.
You mentioned Vader, sorry, just quickly. Have you seen the video on Twitter very recently just come up with Ron Slimmons when he actually slammed Vader to become the champion?
Have I seen the clip?
Yeah, it's running around on Twitter at the moment.
Oh, yeah. Oh, a million times I've seen the clip.
Oh, sorry, but just thought I mentioned the clip because, yeah, it was great to see him slam Big Vader.
And when you look at the reaction of everybody in the arena, it's not just black kids going nuts. It's everybody, which shows you can have a champion that everybody can believe in if you do things the right way. And having that example that can appeal to everyone is important, but that representation is also important if you're trying to really encompass every fan of our sport.
Okay, thank you. Well, with regards to we're sorry to keep going on about your early years and such, but Dave mentioned you being trained by Raymond Rowe, and you mentioned J-Rock as well. Who else did you learn from throughout your career?
Man, we don't even have enough time in the thing for that. Like there's so many people that you pick things up from. You know, realistically, you should probably learn something from everybody that you come across. You know what I mean? Like whether that's the right thing to do, the wrong thing to do. You know what I mean? You learn different lessons from different people. I know a guy that's been instrumental since me being at ROH was Kenny King. You know, he's a guy that absolutely looks out for just about everybody, you know what I mean? But he pulled me aside and just and he didn't even have to, you know, it was like, hey, these are some of the landmines. You want to avoid this, you want to avoid that. Anytime, you know, there's things that frustrate you about, you know, a lot of things in this sport, he's always one to kind of pull me to the side and go, all right, hey, I know how you're feeling, but maybe you want to, you know, take a different, you know, path to get there. Just brute force isn't always, you know what I mean, gonna be the necessary response, because I'm a guy that handles things face to face. You know, I'm not a social media guy. I'm not gonna argue with people on social media. I'm not gonna do any of that stuff. Like it's and past the point of just, you know, just quick jabs and da. But like serious things, I'm not going to go to people like, hey, well, I heard you said this, or so-and-so said you said that. I'm like, no, I'm going to come straight to you. Do we have an issue? Yes, let's solve it. No, keep moving. You know what I mean? So, yeah, so Kenny, John McChesney, Bill Collier, there's so many people, man. It would take all day for me to name them all.
Fair enough, thank you.
Moving on slightly, last year, I believe it was, you did a tour with ROH. You actually came to England. What was that like, wrestling in another country, and how did you find the fans in England and the stadiums, arenas you worked in?
I mean, it was fantastic. It wasn't my first time being out of country, so like there was no real shock value or anything else like that. One of the things that I love about the UK is the energy of the fan bases. You know, there's that air of like that hooligan-esque feeling, you know, in the crowd. And for me, I'm a guy that thrives off of energy, right? So the more hostile of an environment that I'm in, the better I perform. You know what I mean? Take, for example, when we were in York Hall with me and Joe Hendry, you know, there's actually that match is up now on the ROH YouTube as one of his favorite matches, even though he got his ass beat. You know what I mean? That environment, you know, before the matches even started, the whole crowd is chanting "F you, Taylor, F you," and I'm just sitting there going, "Yeah, I got something for y'all." You know what I mean? Like, y'all about to be real upset. You know what I mean? Your boy ain't winning this. You know what I mean? So, you know, those kind of environments I thrive in, and people that know me best know, like when my back is against the wall, you're gonna get the very best of me, and crowds like that bring it out.
Well, quick one for you. Last year, PWI, I'm looking, and they only ranked you at 253 out of 500. Personally, I think that's a bit of bullshit, yeah? What do you think you have to do to climb up and to break into that top 100?
Listen, man, I've learned a long time ago that a lot of these things are kind of just for entertainment value to get people talking. I don't personally think there are 251 wrestlers in the world better than me.
I agree.
So, everybody's entitled to their opinion. But I think I proved last year that not only am I a game changer, but I'm one of the most consistent and best performers in the world. There's not too many people night in, night out that go out and deliver every single time, no matter who I'm in the ring with. I elevate everybody around me. So to me, that sounds like a guy that's not 252nd best in the world. You know what I mean?
Wholeheartedly agree. I mean, your promos last year were on point. Your matches were on point. I think I even managed to tweak the guy out. I was like, where did you get these numbers from? Get out of here.
I mean, speaking of the UK, as a West Ham fan, I actually read the other day that you are a West Ham fan because of
I die, baby. Forever blowing bubbles. I like it.
Yes, my man. Mainly because we are the fighters, the big boys. And when you won the TV title at War of the Worlds, you took on 3 of the biggest guys in wrestling: Jeff Cobb, Brody King, Godo. I mean, what's it like to be in a match like that where it's big boys slapping meat rather than guys trying to run around and jump up and dive? But how's it working with guys like that?
See, that's the crazy thing about it, though, too, is like you would assume that until you look at the athletes that Jeff Cobb and Brody King and Godo are. Every single one of those guys can do everything. You know what I mean? So I'm all for standing there throwing hands and seeing who drops first. That's what I do. You know what I mean? But going in there, you've got a guy, an Olympic athlete in Cobb, a freak fighter in Brody King, and probably one of the most well-rounded guys in the sport in Godo, whose heart, is off the charts. So for me, coming off of the 2 losses to Cobb, knowing that I sort of talked my way into, this fatal 4-way, that was about picking my spots, being smart, and utilizing what everybody else does to my advantage. It's one thing being a good fighter. It's another thing being a great fighter. But it's a whole other thing to be an intelligent, great fighter. And that's what I pride myself on. And that is what won me the world TV title.
Awesome, man. You had such a great run with it. You defeated literally most of the best of ROH could throw at you. And you were the promos about the contract in your booking and setting up STP, Shane Taylor Productions.
Promotions.
Promotions. What was that about? How was that to get in the ring and just to really drop real knowledge?
I mean, that's, again, for people that know me, it's funny because people are always like, well, the things that you say in your promos seem so real. How do you do it? Because I believe what I'm saying. You know what I mean? Like, it's nothing else but just the truth. When you have a guy who is the world television champion, arguably, it's supposed to be world champion TV. Like I'm supposed to be right next to the guy. So I don't see other people in my position not being announced for shows. I don't see other people in my position not being promoted to the fullest like every other champion was before me. So that tells me that it's something about me that you don't like. And from where I'm sitting, no one's going to believe in you or promote you more than you. So I say, hey, you know what? You won't do it. I will. I'll take it upon myself to do what should be being done, and that's showcasing and highlighting me as one of the very best, not only that your company has to offer, but one of the very best that the world has to offer. So I bought that out and came to different terms on per fight deals, along with bringing in Ron Hunt, Khan, and Moses. And, you know, when it came time to negotiate another partnership, we wheeled and dealed and came out with, you know, the largest per fight contract in the history of ROH. So for a guy that enjoys big time moments, big time matches, we now have big time paydays.
Fantastic.
Well,
what? Oh, sorry, Rory, go ahead.
Oh, okay. We'll be talking about your title win and the moments that come afterwards. You previously told us that your favourite experience was wrestling at the 2300 Arena in Philadelphia for Ring of Honor, and as we've just discussed, you've since had a really great run with the TV title. You had a nice little mini run with Bully Ray, teaming with him for a few weeks. You've had some great matches with the likes of Jeff Cobb, Dragon Lee, and Joe Hendry, Marty Scurll, and the rest. So how does that moment of being in that arena in Philly stack up against what you've accomplished since? And is it still your favourite experience?
Everything is different, you know, and it means different things, and is special for their own unique reasons. You know, with being in 2300, all the history that comes into that, you know, from every performer who stepped in there before me, you know, that's special in its own way. To be in Madison Square Garden is special in its own way. And a lot of these things I don't really weigh on a crazy sort of scale, because they're all things that I never really counted on doing. So they're all bonus, really. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's like, so they're more just highlighted as cool moments, whereas different things like winning the world's TV title was a career goal, you know, was a career achievement, right? So it's like, man, you know, that's something that I had written on my list when I started, right? So that's something to me that's even more special. And especially being the fact that in 18 years of the company now, there's only 3 African-American males to have won that title, and I get to be around both of them, you know, and learn from them and take my sort of place in history as the guy that is going to take everything that they've done and then now further that and expand upon it. And I think that's well within my goals within the next few years, is to not only show that I can be a great champion, not only show that I can be a great fighter, but that I can lead a company and do everything that all of my counterparts can do.
Cool. What I'd like to ask, because I'm no doubt Ring of Honor heavyweight championships coming your way at some point. What I'd like to know is, who would you like to take that strap off if you could have a dream opponent wearing that strap? Who would it be that you'd take it off?
That's a great question, because again, it's atmosphere is everything for me. Now, while the phrase still stands, to be the man, you got to beat the man, the obvious answer would then be Roosh, right? Yeah. Especially given the fact that his little brother cheated to win my title in the first place, right? So to go out there and beat Big Brother down in front of him would be, you know, poetry. You know what I mean? But then you think about different matchups, right? And what it means. So, like, if there was a situation where Jay Briscoe wins the world championship again, what better way to cement yourself as the new face of ROH than beating the guy who's been the face of ROH for 18 years? You know what I mean? If it's Jay Lethal, what better way to cement your legacy than as someone who can not only help carry the company, but the culture, you know what I mean, by beating the guy, you know, who's the only other African-American male to win, you know, the world championship. Like, there's so many ways to make history, you know what I mean? So I'm looking forward to either way. But as it stands right now, the guy holding that championship is Roosh. So when he has it, so if he has it when I come for it, sorry about your luck. You know what I mean?
Yes.
So with those contracts that you clawed and fought for when you were TV champion, and you got to set up Shane Taylor Promotions, you brought in the SOS, the Soldiers of Savagery, Moses and Khan. You, as far as I'm aware, you got yourself a #1 contender. You've got a title match within that contract, and you've also got a 6-man title shot within that contract. I'm assuming you're going to want to take that as soon as possible. But when are you hoping to get back in the ring?
Everything comes with time, man, and real G's move in silence. So there's a lot of plans that I have that I won't necessarily divulge at this moment, because I don't need anybody having any sort of time to get ready, to prepare. When I decide to make my move, they'll know, and by then it's too late. You know what I mean? So all I know is we have 2 guaranteed championship opportunities. When and where we decide as a team that's the best time to use them, we will.
Okay. Well, I know we said we would keep this around the 30-minute mark. So we'll wrap it up there. Thank you very much for your time. It's been absolutely awesome talking to you. And I think I can happily speak for Dave and Andy and say that we'd happily have you on here anytime in the future. So if ever you want to join us, again, open invitation for whatever. But
genuine pleasure.
Thank you, boys. Much appreciated, and hope you guys are staying safe out there, and hopefully we'll be back to doing what we do very, very shortly.
Okay.
Indeed.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Cheers.
All right, boys.
Thank you.